What has 122-foot dinosaurs, a 34-ton meteorite you can actually touch, a blue whale hanging from the ceiling, and artifacts from ancient Mesoamerican cultures all in one place? No, it's not a movie set. It's the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. So whether you're 5 or 95, this place will blow your mind and has something for you. I'm gonna make it easy for you and show you the top 10 wonders you absolutely cannot miss at the best natural history museum in the entire world. Built to tell the story of life on Earth and beyond, the American Museum of Natural History has stood on the edge of Central Park in Manhattan since 1869. Today, it's a cathedral of science, evolution, geology, zoology, paleontology, anthropology, and more. It's part museum, part time machine, and entirely mind-blowing. Here's the list of everything we're going to see on today's tour. We're going to see actual dinosaurs, their bones, their tracks, even their eggs. We'll see giant mosquitoes, pre-Columbian gold, life-size replicas of our prehistoric ancestors, glistening and outrageous sapphires, and more. So let's get inside. I'm quite excited to see what this is behind me. In some ways, I kind of consider this American Museum of Natural History the sister museum to the Museum of Natural History in London, and in this way, they are kind of twins. In London, they have the skeleton of the blue whale, which is great to see. Here, they have the actual life-size blue whale hanging overhead, and I'm about to see it for the first time. Our first stop in this vast museum is the Hall of Ocean Life right on the first floor, and it's really fabulous. The minute you walk in, you feel it. Silence, space, and something colossal overhead. Suspended from the ceiling like it's swimming through the sky is a 94-foot-long model of the largest animal that's ever lived on Earth, the blue whale. Bigger than a dinosaur, louder than a jet engine, and yes, it's alive today. This model is one of the most iconic sights in the entire museum, and maybe in all of New York. It floats above the room, designed like the bottom of an ocean. All around you, there are life-sized dioramas that show sharks, squid, seals, and coral reefs. But nothing prepares you for that whale. Even though it's just a fiberglass model, it feels like it could blink and dive at any second. The idea behind this display goes back to 1969, when the museum replaced its old inflatable blue whale with a sleeker, more accurate sculpture. And that accuracy matters, because this isn't just for show. It's based on a real female blue whale spotted off the coast of Argentina. Why Argentina? That's one of the places where these ocean giants still migrate, diving deep to feed on krill and traveling thousands of miles each year. If you stood next to a real blue whale, its heart alone would be the size of a small piano. Its tongue could weigh as much as an elephant, and yet it feeds almost entirely on those tiny shrimp-like creatures. Almost hunted to extinction, today, thanks to a ban on hunting, the blue whale population has risen to more than 10,000. Looking up at this model, you're reminded that we still share this planet with true giants, living, breathing, endangered wonders that most of us will never see in the wild. It's not a relic of the past, it's the world's most majestic survivor. If the American Museum of Natural History had a red carpet, this would be one of the stars of the show. Towering 13 feet tall and stretching over 40 feet long, Tyrannosaurus Rex is one of the heaviest, most powerful, and most famous meat-eating dinosaurs that ever lived. It's in one of two major dinosaur halls up on the 4th floor, and this one's called the Hall of Saurischian, or lizard-hipped dinosaurs. And this isn't just a model. Most of the bones here are real, drawn from two original T-Rex skeletons discovered in Montana in 1902 and 1908.
That second discovery was especially historic because in 1908, this museum became the first in the world to ever display a T-Rex. The posture you see now, dynamic with its tail raised for balance, reflects modern science, but this skeleton also reflects mystery. For all of its brute strength and fearsome banana-length teeth, T-Rex probably wasn't all that fast. Experts estimate it could only run about 10 to 15 miles per hour, meaning the average human could possibly outrun one if they weren't scared to death in their place. Even more surprising, some paleontologists have argued that T-Rex may have been more of a scavenger than a hunter, sniffing out carcasses with its exceptional sense of smell. So was it a bloodthirsty predator or just a 7-ton trash collector? Well, the debate continues, but most scientists believe that it was actually a combination of both predator and scavenger. The T-Rex had the most powerful bite of any land animal in history, enough to crush bone. Scavengers don't usually need that kind of raw force. Fossils also show other dinosaurs like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus with healed T-Rex bite marks, meaning they survived an attack, and this strongly suggests predatory behavior. For over a century, this display has captured our imaginations, not just for what it shows, but for what it suggests. A time when monsters ruled the earth and left their bones behind for us to wonder at. Number 3 is the Star of India. It's one of the most famous jewels in the entire world, not for a royal crown or movie cameo, but for a midnight heist pulled off in 1964. The Star of India is a 563-carat sapphire, about the size of a golf ball, with a deep gray-blue color and a glowing star-shaped pattern that shimmers across its surface. It's the largest gem-quality star sapphire ever found, and one of the crown jewels of this museum's vast mineral collection. And here's the wildest part. This gem is over 2 billion years old. It formed deep within the Earth long before the first complex life ever appeared. That's older than dinosaurs, older than trees, older than almost anything you've ever touched. What gives it that mysterious star? It's a natural optical effect called asterism, caused by tiny, perfectly aligned mineral inclusions that reflect light in a 6-rayed pattern. No tricks, just nature's geometry, frozen in stone. The sapphire was mined in Sri Lanka, a country known for some of the finest sapphires in the world. It arrived at the American Museum of Natural History in the early 1900s, but it became truly legendary in 1964 when it was stolen in a real-life heist that made headlines across the country. The culprits? A group of young, thrill-seeking amateurs inspired by Hollywood. They slipped in through a bathroom window, disabled the alarms, and vanished. The Star of India was recovered weeks later, stashed in a Miami bus station locker. Today, it sits safely behind glass, radiating a kind of quiet power. A 2 billion-year-old survivor of deep time, human greed, and one very lucky getaway.
Fits right in the palm of my hand.
Number 4, the Ahnighito Meteorite. It weighs 34 tons. It's made of solid iron and nickel, and yes, you're allowed to touch it. This is Ahnighito, the largest meteorite on display anywhere in the world. It's so heavy that when the museum installed it in 1906, they had to build special steel supports that extend all the way down to the bedrock beneath the building, just to hold it up. Ahnighito is a fragment of the Cape York meteorite, which crashed into Greenland thousands of years ago. It was part of a larger iron mass that likely broke up in the atmosphere and scattered across the Arctic. For centuries, local Inuit communities used pieces of it as a source for metal, tools, knives, and survival. In 1894, famed Arctic explorer Robert Peary led an expedition to retrieve this massive piece. It took years, an entire ship, and the labor of dozens of men to move it across the ice and then sail it to New York City. At the time, it was considered one of the greatest logistical feats in the history of exploration. But beyond the story of its journey, there's something awe-inspiring about what Ahnighito actually is. This isn't a rock from Earth. It's a fragment of an asteroid that formed over 4.5 billion years ago, around the same time as the Earth and the Sun, forged in the fiery birth of our solar system. You can run your hands across its smooth metallic surface, a kind of cosmic relic older than any fossil in the museum. It's one of the few objects on Earth that was never part of Earth. Touch it, and you're connecting, literally, to the stars.
So remember, don't skip the human origins section or similar of any natural history museum if you want to see early art. Most people don't think about early Paleolithic art or any kind of art when they think of a natural history museum, but that's where to check it out in a natural history museum. The human origins, the evolution, the prehistory of humans section.
Number 5, the Hall of Human Origins. What does it mean to be human? The Hall of Human Origins on the first floor, right next to the Hall of Meteorites and Gems and Minerals, is probably my personal favorite in the entire museum. It takes you on a visual journey through 6 million years of evolution, from upright apes to modern humans, and it's one of the most thought-provoking galleries in the museum. The centerpiece? A stunning series of life-sized hominin reconstructions, sculpted with eerie realism. You'll lock eyes with Australopithecus afarensis, the species of Lucy. Then you'll walk through a timeline of early human ancestors, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, and eventually, us. These reconstructions aren't guesswork. They're based on fossil evidence and the latest research. As you move through the gallery, you can feel the shift. Posture improves, tools get smarter, brains get bigger. Evolution becomes something you don't just learn, you see. But it's not just bones and biology. The hall also celebrates early symbolic thinking and creativity, with a collection of excellent replicas of famous prehistoric sculptures, like the Venus figurines carved by Ice Age peoples across Europe. From the Venus of Willendorf to the Lespugue figurine, these small but powerful icons reveal an early human fascination with fertility, survival, and even beauty. Another hidden gem is a 25,000-year-old engraved horse from France, a masterpiece of Ice Age art carved into limestone with graceful detail. It's a reminder that long before cities or writing, we were already storytellers and artists. And as you stare into the sculpted face of Homo neanderthalensis, or Homo erectus, you may feel something unexpected: recognition. Because evolution isn't ancient history, it's your history. Only the absolute best natural history museums in the world have exhibition halls devoted to human prehistory and evolution, making this Hall of Human Origins an absolute do not miss.
If you don't like learning from a book, or if you like to supplement your book learning, there's really no better visual way to do it than coming here. I've never been to a natural history museum yet that has it done quite this well, going all the way from Australopithecus, and it's going to take you around from Homo ergaster to Homo erectus to Neanderthal, and then to Homo sapiens. And the Homo sapiens exhibit is really cool because they've done a great diorama of the Cro-Magnon humans, or Cro-Magnon, because the first remains were found in that part of France. And you can see how our ancestors lived and looked. Homo erectus, our relative from 500,000 years ago, is in a pretty striking diorama here. I love how they have him positioned. Really brings him to life. And it really helps you to relate. Much different than a skeleton or a book. Relatability is my reaction here.
We've got 5 more on this list, and as usual, I've saved some of the absolute most spectacular for the end, so stick with me. But before we jump into the next 5, I want to ask you to hit the like button if you're enjoying this video, and make sure to leave a comment if you feel like I missed anything, or just letting me know which one was your favorite that you've seen today, or that you saw at the actual museum. Now let's jump to number 6.
I wasn't sure about including this next one, but I loved it so much in the picture that I saw that I'm really glad I found it in this massive museum. Look at what is behind me. Thank God they are not really that big. If you ever want to know what they really look like, what's burrowing into your skin,
Number 6. The giant mosquito. It's absurd, it's hilarious, it's slightly horrifying, and somehow it's unforgettable. The giant mosquito in the Hall of Biodiversity looms over visitors at 75 times the size of a real mosquito. Part monster movie, part science lesson. But here's the wild backstory. This mosquito model was originally installed in 1917 during a global malaria outbreak. It was to help educate the public about the disease. It was cutting-edge science communication because only 17 years earlier, in 1900, researchers had finally confirmed that mosquitoes were the ones transmitting malaria to humans. The model represents an Anopheles mosquito, the genus responsible for spreading malaria. But don't panic, this one is a male, and in real life, only female mosquitoes bite. So you're technically safe, unless you're a plant. What this enormous insect shows us is that the deadliest animals on Earth aren't the big predators, they're the tiny ones. Mosquitoes are responsible for over 600,000 deaths per year, mostly through diseases like malaria, dengue, Zika, and West Nile virus. This exhibit lets you zoom in on the mosquito's terrifying anatomy. Its long, needle-like proboscis, which pierces the skin and draws the blood, its feathery antennae, its spindly, delicate legs, scaled up to eye level so you can't miss a thing. And it's not just about fear, it's about understanding. Insects, especially ones like this, remind us how fragile the balance of ecosystems and human health really is. It's part of the fascinating Hall of Biodiversity, which includes the skeleton of the extinct dodo bird, one of the most complete dodo bird skeletons in the entire world. It was wiped out by Dutch settlers in only 80 years from the island of Mauritius, partly because they couldn't fly to get away. You also get to see an African rainforest and a life-size display of all the endangered animals in the world here in the Hall of Biodiversity.
Now, one of the other highlights here in the Saurischian dinosaurs area, they have actual fossilized dinosaur eggs. You're about to see them as I go around the corner here, right behind me. Those are the fossilized eggs in its nest. And then they did a cast of what it was like on the inside as well. So really, really cool thing to look at, but you get to see actual dinosaur eggs.
Number 7 on this great list of the wonders that you cannot miss at the American Museum of Natural History is of particular interest to the real scientists and paleontologists among you that are watching today. It's a dinosaur embryo and a dinosaur mummy, both real. It's really, really mind-blowing. I basically left with chills after seeing them and doing the research for this section of the video. So let's take a look. It's up on the 4th floor in the dinosaur halls. Most fossils show us death, skeletons, skulls, footprints frozen in time. But the first of these 2 fossils show us something far rarer: life in the process of becoming. This dinosaur embryo, discovered in the sands of Mongolia, is so delicate that it feels like it shouldn't have survived. But there it is, a tiny creature curled inside its egg, still in the fetal position, like it was waiting to hatch. It belongs to a group called oviraptorids, fast, ostrich-like, meat-eating dinosaurs with long necks and sharp claws at the end of their forelimbs. As adults, they would have stood about 6 feet tall and likely hunted small animals or eggs. But here's where it gets weird. Next to the oviraptorid embryo, paleontologists found 2 tiny velociraptor skulls, likely from hatchlings or embryos. Were these baby velociraptors prey? Or was this a case of nest parasitism, where one species lays its eggs in another's nest, like some birds do today? Well, no one really knows, but it raises a mind-bending possibility that the most famous predator in pop culture history might have started its life in someone else's nursery. And just steps away is a dinosaur mummy, and it lives up to the name. The mummy fossil doesn't just preserve bones, it holds onto traces of skin, flesh, and even tendons, incredibly rare in the fossil record. The mummy specimen is an Edmontosaurus, a large duck-billed herbivore that roamed North America about 70 million years ago. It was discovered in Wyoming in 1908. And this fossil is still one of the most complete dinosaur remains ever found. You can actually see the texture of the skin with the naked eye, including tiny bumps, like scales or armor plating, giving us our most direct evidence yet of what dinosaur skin actually looked like. The preservation was a perfect storm. The dinosaur likely died in a riverbed and was rapidly buried by sediment, sealing off oxygen and allowing soft tissues to fossilize before decay set in. These 2 specimens, one at the beginning of life and the other at its end, give us a priceless moment of intimacy with creatures long extinct. Number 8. The Hall of Mexico and Central America. Before there was Columbus, before there were cathedrals in Europe, there were cities, pyramids, astronomers, and goldsmiths in what is now Mexico and Central America. We call that area Mesoamerica. This part of the American Museum of Natural History is a quiet powerhouse. It's a gallery that brings together the legacy of ancient civilizations like the Olmec, the Maya, the Aztec, and Zapotec, as well as the brilliant gold-working cultures of Central and South America. One of the most mysterious treasures here is the Coon's Axe, a jadeite sculpture carved over 3,000 years ago by the Olmec, often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica. It was discovered in the hills of Oaxaca, and although it's called an axe, it was likely an important ceremonial object. The figure shows a shaman in transformation as he transforms into a jaguar. You can see the almond-shaped eyes suggesting a trance or altered state, and a wide, open mouth shaped like a jaguar, one of Olmec's most powerful spiritual symbols. To the Olmec, the jaguar wasn't just an animal, it was a bridge between worlds, a force of night, power, and transformation. Across the gallery, gold glitters everywhere. Nose ornaments, animal figurines, and ritual objects made by cultures from Mexico all the way to Peru. To many of these civilizations, gold wasn't money, it was sacred. The Incas called it the sweat of the sun. One of the most exquisite pieces here is a gold owl from the Mixtec culture of southern Mexico. It's a stylized, symbolic bird likely worn as a sign of status and ritual knowledge. Farther south, the Chavin culture in Peru used gold in oracle ceremonies, linking it to divine revelation. That tradition spread across Latin America, and by the time the Spanish arrived, many indigenous civilizations had amassed vast sacred treasuries filled with gold for worship. It was this gold, meant to honor the gods, that tempted the conquistadors and ultimately fueled the conquest. And then you come to the stone carvings, my absolute favorite. Towering Mayan stelae covered glyphs and portraits of rulers. These pieces come from the actual archaeological site of Caba, a site in the Yucatan region in Mexico. They were carved just before the city was abandoned, likely due to drought or political collapse. Caba was then quickly and quietly swallowed by the jungle, lost to history until it was rediscovered in the 1800s. Today, these monuments and artifacts speak again here at the American Museum of Natural History of kings and priests, celestial calendars, battles, rituals, and the mathematical precision of a civilization that charted the stars. Picture a muddy shoreline in what is now Texas. A giant sauropod walks by, probably an Apatosaurus, a long-necked herbivore similar to the Brontosaurus we remember from childhood. It leaves deep impressions in the wet ground. Later, a carnivore follows, maybe hunting, maybe just passing through. Now, fast forward 107 million years later, and those steps are still here. This is the Glen Trackway, and it's a set of fossilized dinosaur footprints, real dinosaur footprints, partially relocated to the American Museum of Natural History in 1940. These prints were made in soft mud near the edge of an ancient inland sea. They were buried quickly by sediment and then slowly re-exposed over millions of years by the erosive flow of the Paluxy River, a natural reveal that preserved the tracks in extraordinary condition. The larger footprints left by the Apatosaurus, also displayed above the tracks in a fantastic permanent exhibit here at the American Museum of Natural History. It had hind feet that were more than 3 feet long and over 3 feet wide in some specimens, pressing deep into the ancient riverbank. You can see the weight and the scale in every rounded step. Next to them are sharp, 3-toed tracks made by a theropod, a large meat-eating dinosaur that may have followed the sauropod's path. Was it hunting or was it scavenging or just walking on the same trail? We really don't know, but our imagination can run wild here in the American Museum of Natural History. Paleontologists use trackways like this to estimate walking speed, stride length, and even how a dinosaur's weight shifted as it moved. This trackway is among the most important ever discovered, not just for its clarity, but for its storytelling power. The Glen site in Texas remains active today, and you can still see prints there, and the parts that were removed were divided between a small museum in Texas, the Smithsonian, and the American Museum of Natural History, two of the greatest natural history museums in the entire world. If you visited the site on the Paluxy River in Texas, you can stand exactly where these great creatures once stood. But you can also stand right next to the actual footprints right here in New York City, in one of the best learning environments in the world for paleontology.
They've done a great job here of making it something you can see from every angle. Right now, I am walking up the stairs so I can look downward onto the Glen Trackway itself from above and get a really clear view of those dinosaur footprints. They look almost like swimming pools. And then you can walk right alongside, almost like the backbone of the Brontosaurus, also known as a Patasaurus, depending on whose name system you are going with. Two people apparently discovered him and named him the same thing. But yeah, the highlight here is this Apatosaurus on the original Trackway in the footprints.
Number 10 is one of the coolest things you'll ever see, and it's a great way to end this video. Before you even enter the dinosaur halls on the 4th floor, right as you come out of the elevators, something enormous is waiting for you. At the Disorienting Orientation Center, as they call it, you meet the Titanosaur, a full-size cast of the Patagotitan Majorum, arguably the largest dinosaur ever discovered, and the largest full-body cast of its kind in the entire world. It's so massive, 122 feet long, that it literally can't even fit in the room. Its head sticks boldly out into the hallway as if it's curious to see who's arrived. This dinosaur was longer than a blue whale and weighed an estimated 70 tons. That's the weight of more than 10 elephants. The species was only recently discovered in 2014 in the Patagonian desert of Argentina. It wasn't officially named until 2017 when paleontologists chose the name Patagotitan Majorum. Patago for Patagonia, the place in Argentina where it was found, Titan because of its sheer size and power, it's titanic, and Majorum honoring the Mayo family who owned the land where it was found. The skeleton that this cast is based on came from at least 6 individuals and is made from over 80% of real fossil data, filled in with mirrored parts and scientific modeling. But the best part, some of the actual bones are on display right next to the cast. It's the only place in the world like this. So you can see just how big and heavy these animals really were. Patagotitan belonged to a group of sauropods called Titanosaurs, long-necked, long-tailed herbivores that lived during the late Cretaceous period, around 100 million years ago, in lush forests where Argentina is today. Even though it was massive, this dinosaur was a plant eater, probably spending its days stripping trees, migrating in herds, and laying eggs the size of soccer balls. The enormous size was likely a form of protection. When you weigh 140,000 pounds, you don't even need armor. This cast is made of lightweight fiberglass, but don't let that fool you. The real bones were so large and heavy that it took specialized equipment just to lift them out of the desert. Standing underneath this dinosaur, you get a rare sense of scale that even the best fossil halls in the world can't always provide. This is the largest dinosaur skeleton display anywhere in the world, and one of only 2 places where you can see the Patagotitan. The other is the new exhibit in London, which is slightly smaller. In a place like this, you don't just see bones, you feel how massive and how spectacular these creatures truly were. And the fact that it was added to the museum in only 2016, over a century after many other exhibits, reminds us that the age of discovery is far from over. We're still finding giants in the ground. And that, my friend, is just scratching the surface of the amazing American Museum of Natural History. I'm so proud to have this museum here in New York City in the United States. It's such a wonderful place to go for people of all ages, all educational backgrounds. There is truly something for everyone, and I hope that I have helped you get a taste of that today. From stardust to the deep sea, from dinosaurs to vanished birds, it's just a giant jaw-dropping journey through time and life itself. If you want to get really up close with Ice Age fossils in the age of mammals, which comes after the age of dinosaurs, you can check out my full-length video on the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles, clear on the other side of the country. There, you can see saber-toothed cats, Columbian mammoths, mastodons, and ancient sloths emerging straight out of the tar. And if you love the museums of New York City, you have got to check out my videos about the top 10 things to see at the Met, and my video about the top 10 paintings at MoMA, including Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. That will round out your adventure to the 3 best museums in the entire city and probably the entire world. So click here or in the description to check those out and cross them off your bucket list. I'm Toby Nomad, and I will see you in the future.